get into framework. So I have a picture here of some timber framing. We use frameworks a lot in scientific research and stuff like that, and it helps us to understand the way things work. So I've explained to you the framework in the previous one. We saw the the ADM model and the different demand generation, demand harvesting, and loyalty and stuff like that. Now we want to apply it. So the optimal allocation of resource will actually depend on the organisation's current structure. So I can't go out there and go, well, this is the model, this is how you apply it, because for different people, they're going to be applying it in different ways. So let's just have a look at what the similarities are. And when you go to apply this, understand that you'll be doing it different than other people. So if there's demand in the market that is not being harvested, or action being taken, so people actually have the desire and the intention to purchase something, but they're not actually doing it, it's ineffective then to allocate resources to demand generation, which makes sense, right? Why would you generate more demand when you're not harvesting the existing demand, all right? So instead, you should be focusing on demand harvesting. Now, conversely, if there is no demand being generated, if there's no demand in the market, there's no interest, so people don't know about your product, or they just have no intention to purchase your product, it's ineffective then to focus on demand harvesting. But instead you should be focusing on demand generation. Now, demand harvesting would be like where you focus on the transactional side of the sale. So you've got it, and remarketing is what you've got. That way you go, oh, you've had this in your shopping basket. We're going to give you a limited time sale or something like that, or for every purchase that you get, whatever incentives that you use, basically trying to go, well, these people are already showing interest, these already want our products, they're already thinking about buying them, let's just help them get over the line. Either that's reminding them or making it easier for them to purchase. So you need to line it up, because if you're focusing your efforts in the wrong spot, it's just going to be ineffective and a complete waste of money. So customer loyalty is the goal, but if there are no actual first-time customers, it's impossible to make them loyal, which makes sense as well, right? So if you just start a new business, you think, oh, well, I remember Kevin's digital marketing lectures, it's all about customer loyalty and blah, blah, blah. But if you haven't got any customers, first customers, don't start up a customer loyalty program, because which customers are going to be in that, all right? You got to, maybe you could think about that down the track, but you got to get customers in before you can make them loyal customers. So the level of resource allocation should match the situation that the business is in. And remember I said, different businesses are going to be applied in different ways, so you need to be able to identify which stage your business is in. Are you trying to generate demand, harvest demand, or focus on loyalty? And these aren't mutually exclusive concepts, so that you don't have to be doing everything in one and none in the others, but what are you focus? Where is your resource allocation going? Where's most of your money? Where's most of your time going? So demand generation is generating attention and interest. Demand harvesting is about desire and action, and loyalty building is turning first-time customers into loyal customers. All right. Now, allocating more resources to demand generation rarely yields higher return on investment than demand harvesting or loyalty building. And this kind of makes sense, because the potential customers, the higher up in the conversion tunnel, and the more difficult to evaluate. You've got less information about them, you don't know who they are, blah, blah, blah. They haven't really interacted with your business yet, right? Because you're trying to generate that demand in the first place. So if you're doing general display advertising going out there, like brand awareness type stuff, like you're sending out to lots of people that you don't really know who they are. They're not very well targeted. As such, demand generation efforts are less precise and typically less effective. Doesn't mean... So you can understand that there's a bit of a desire for digital marketers to take the low-hanging fruit and focus on demand harvesting. But like I said previously, if you haven't actually done the work in demand generation, you won't have that demand to harvest. So you're going to think of those together. Now, increasing strategic spending on demand generation is useful when demand harvesting efforts have been saturated in the market. So you've done that, and we're going to talk about diminishing returns in a minute, but effectively, the more money you put on there, for every extra dollar you're putting into demand generation, you're not actually getting that value back. Demand generation, and second demand demand generation efforts are sufficient to harvest the demand immediately. So if we focus on demand generation and you go, well, how are we going to harvest that demand? You should be focusing on demand generation if there's already some kind of mechanism there or some ability. So it doesn't have to be good. I've got the word sufficient. I probably should have bolded that out there. There's actually something there to harvest it. You can generate demand and then harvest it later, but you're better off having demand generation efforts are sufficient to harvest the demand immediately. All right, allocating resources across different channels. So marketing budget should aim to achieve the highest possible return on investment for the strategy. And that makes sense, right? But when we talk about return on investment in the long term too. So this optimization requires the knowledge of the returns for each investment. So if you're going to measure return on investment, you go, well, how much are we putting into it? How much are we getting out of it? It's really going to depend on your ability to be able to measure those things. So digital marketing returns are determined by three things. First of all, the cost per revenue. Sorry, I'm reading my head here. I'm thinking ahead. The cost per exposure, the cost per customer concentration, and effectiveness of exposure. So I've got a neat model here coming up which shows these things. So the first one is customer concentration, which is the proportion of potential customers with non-potential customers. I want you to think about how many of the people who see my ad are actually within my target market, who are actually a potential customer. They want to do business with me and I want them to do business with me. All right, now we look at the exposure effectiveness of the ad that we're showing them. So, and that's the number of conversions that we get. So people actually make a sale or sign up or lead generation or whatever we're doing, or whatever our primary conversion metric is. So the number of conversions over the number of people that see that, like impressions. So think, is my ad effective in getting people who see it to actually act on that? And then all of these things, so you've got customer retention, concentration multiplied by exposure effectiveness. So, and then you divide that by the cost per exposure, which is how expensive is the ad per person who sees it. And if you put all that together, you're going to be able to calculate your return on investment. Now, some of these metrics can be difficult to work out, and the more you do it, the more data you get, the more accurate they'll be. All right. So that's just the way digital marketing is. And it's good to understand how these things fit together. So return on investment, think how much money am I getting back compared to how much I'm putting in. Also called return on advertising spend. So return on investment's is a business type terminology. Return on advertising spend is more of a digital marketing thing. So amongst yourselves, you'll probably be talking about return on advertising spend because that's the terminology that digital marketers use. But when you go talk to your other the people in strategy and stuff, they're going to be talking about return on investment, especially finance and accounting as well. All right, so cost per exposure. So we're gonna break this down. So I'm going to go back a slide here. We've got customer concentration, exposure effectiveness, and cost per exposure. So we're going to look at cost per exposure first, and then we're going to go through these sections. So the cost of per exposure on most advertising channels, such as paid search and display advertising stuff like that, is typically reported by the actual platform that you're doing the digital marketing in, such as Facebook or Google, wherever it is, right? Now, the cost per exposure in other digital marketing channels, such as search engine optimization, because remember, a lot of the search engine optimization we do is cleaning up our own websites so that they are optimized for search engine results page, right? So that's not done. You could pay a business to do it, but you're studying digital marketing, so it's most likely you're the people that are going to be doing it, right? So it's not going to be reported through. You're not doing it through an application like Facebook or Google or Instagram or LinkedIn or something like that. You're going to be doing it, internally, and such as social media as well, right? So if you're posting organic content on your social media, you're not going to get reports about their cost per exposure because you're not paying directly for those advertising. It's your own time and effort that goes into it. So it's actually much more difficult to calculate. And you should really be recording this as you go along. So if you're in a digital marketing agency where you're doing this for other people, you'll be recording it because you have to bill out your customers. So you go, well, for this Monday morning, I was working for brand A and I spent 4 hours doing their search engine optimization, right? So then they know 4 hours of your time gets billed to that. So that's a cost to that business, but how many people see that, the exposure part. I mean, for socials it might work because you go, I spent 2 hours last week doing organic content and we got 1,000 impressions from that. You can see that sometimes in in TikTok and stuff. That you can see how many people see your posts, and Twitter does that now as well. So you can calculate that, but you have to do that yourself, right? Now the investment in search engine optimization, it's not always direct, such as wages, and the returns for search engine optimization are often delayed. So think about it like this. So if I spend today optimizing my website for search engine optimization, it's going to get better, but it's going to take a while for the Google bots to crawl through it, the crawlers to go through it and index it and blah, 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 and fix all those improvements and stuff like that. So then next week someone searches for it, it'll go up the ranking, but it happens over time. So it could be a couple of weeks' time where the efforts that are put into search engine optimization are actually improving. You could benchmark that and go, oh, well, what's the average delay? Take a bit of a approximation. You go, well, we used to get so much traffic coming through search. I spent 2 days doing search engine optimization. Now I get that much, but it's going to be a bit rough, right? It's going to be difficult to work out. But it's still important to try and measure it. People fall into this trap. They go, well, I don't know exactly, so I'm not going to worry about doing it. But you're better off having an overall idea, right, than no idea. Now, customer concentration. Now, this is the number of actual potential customers mixed in with non-potential customers. So every platform that we work on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, I'm trying to think of them all here, Pinterest, all of them, right? Every platform contains a mix of potential customers that are willing to do business with you under the right circumstances and those that are just no. And you might have those businesses in your mind as well. In consumer behavior, we talk about evoked set. So the customers that you think in your brain. So if I say, would you like to go get a beer? What beer would you like? Now the brand names that come into your head go, oh, I'd love to get a Boag's Green, like a Boag's Draft. Oh, they don't have that. What else would you get? So the actual products, like the brand names that come into your head, are the ones in your evoked set, and these are the customers that are most likely to do business with you, right? So because they're thinking about you, they know about you, and they have some kind of positive association with you, right? Now, potential customers are people who will make a purchase under the right conditions, right price, right product. So often they know what the product is, but is it the right product for them? Has all the features and stuff to suit them? So product, price, is it being promoted properly, and is it distribution place? Is it in the right, easy to facilitate? So, but non-potential customers are people who, even if the product was super cheap where everyone's buying it and really good where everybody wants it, all that sort of stuff, they still wouldn't want to purchase with you. So whatever levers you pull within the marketing mix, you still not be able to get them to be a customer. All right. And advertising to non-potential customers is obviously less effective than potential customers. So you go, well, the customer concentration then is going to have an impact on my marketing effectiveness, because if I'm sending my ads to a place where most of the people would never do business with me anyway, there's less, 1,000 people might see them, but if half of them, 500 of them, wouldn't do business anyway, I'm losing half of my marketing effectiveness just in that customer concentration. Whereas if you send it out and then you got 1,000 of them and 900 would do business with you, like would purchase something off you, well then obviously that's going to be much better. Right, now, an advantage of digital marketing is the ability to target customers more accurately. And that's why marketing is sort of booming towards digital marketing, because we get these metrics and we can be more efficient and effective what we do. At the same time, that requires a lot more skill, a lot more analytics and stuff like that. But that's why we're teaching it, because that's the direction that the markets are heading, and that's what the industry expects us as marketing people to be able to do. Now, machine learning is really cool. It's fairly new. When I say fairly new, we've had machine learning around for a long time. But what the things that machine learning can do now with big data and artificial intelligence is actually becoming really cool, to the point where we're really seeing noticeable impacts on that, right? So before, when we did Facebook posts and stuff like that, we had to do all of our own targeting, right? What was your age, blah, blah, blah. Everything was manual. Well, manual was basically us controlling those variables. But now you do it, you can just go, let the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, actually work out the best for me. And I've tried both ways, and I'm actually incredibly surprised how good it is. Like, well, it's a machine and it's using a lot of numbers and maths and stuff like that. So, yeah, anyway. There are limitations, of course, but we can't go into that. But the point is, machine learning is getting better and can improve the effectiveness of our digital marketing. As such, these digital marketing channels can cost more per exposure. So advertising on Facebook is getting a lot more expensive compared to what it used to be. But the return on investments is actually increasing as well. And at the moment, TikTok's really cheap to advertise on because it's fairly new. Not everyone's jumped on the bandwagon yet. And like, if you haven't done it yet, check it out because it's only going to get more expensive because they're improving their, TikTok. Their customers are us, digital marketers, because we spend money with them, right? So they try to make everything as easy as possible for us to spend money on them. And as more people do that, then demand is going to increase, and then the price is going to go up as well, right? All right, so exposure effectiveness. This is the third one. So the goal of marketing is to influence consumer behaviour, so to facilitate market exchange. That's the point of it, right? Like, we've got to keep it in perspective. So a person must progress along the consumer decision-making process and then actually click on the ad and then make a purchase. So the exposure effectiveness is the number of conversions, so the people actually click on the ad and make a sale, divided by the number of people that do it. Divided by the number of people who actually see it, I should say, exposure. So social media ads such as Facebook and TikTok are typically more effective than like a newspaper, whether that's a traditional newspaper or a newspaper site. Now think of that because display ads, like banner ads, are literally the sideshow, right? People scroll past them. If you're like me, you got ad blocks on there as well. So you just either you zone it out, and when you do consumer behaviour, you'll learn about this, how people do this. They just filter it out of their brains, so they don't pay attention to it. So if people aren't paying attention to it, they're not showing interest, they're not showing desire, and they're not actually going to act on it. Now, social media are a lot more effective because they are better at capturing the attention of people that are exposed to these ads as well, right? So in TikTok, it actually, as you go through, it comes up, so it's right in front of you. You can't see anything else at that particular time other than that ad. You can easily skip it, but it's got your attention. Whether it's got your interest or not, it's a different thing. And same with Facebook when they do, so different, you can have like the side ads on Facebook and people can overlook them as well. Or you can have the stories ads where they come up and it's the same as TikTok there. So taking action leads to desire. So this attention leads to desire, which leads to taking action and then actually making a purchase. All right, so that's it for the application of the framework. Now we're going to look at channels, tactics, and resource allocation.